Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and in this tutorial we are going to discuss about the scopes in Python. So what is local scope, what is a global scope, and what are their meaning with some simple examples. So without further ado, let's get into it. So a variable is only available from inside that region which it is created. So this is called as a scope. So there are two major types of scope. So first one is local scope. So a variable is created inside a function which belongs to a local scope of that function. So it can only be used inside that function. So in this example, a variable is created inside a function which is available inside that function. So in this case, we have created one variable named x and assigned 10 value to it. But in this case, we have created that variable inside the function named this function. So it is nothing but a local scope of that variable. Let me show you with some example. So in this example, we will create one function and we will create one variable and assign some value to it. But we will create that variable inside our function. So to do that, use the def keyword to define a function, and the function name will be my function. Give the colon, and after that just give the indentation and create one variable. So our variable name will be a equal to some value 50. So as you can see, we have defined one function named my function and created one variable and assigned some value to it. But when we print the value of a outside the function, as you can see, the name a is not defined as we have defined the a inside the function. So it is showing the error. So this is called as a local scope. So our next topic is function inside a function. So as we have seen in the previous example, the variable x was not available outside the function, but it is available for any function inside that function. So in this example, we have defined the function named this function and we have created the variable x and assigned some integer value to it. Then again we have defined another function, my inner function, inside our outer function, and when we print the value we will be getting the result as it is a function inside a function. Let me show you how. So for this example, let me create the outer function. So use the def keyword as usual, and this function name will be outer function. And now after giving colon and indentation, we will create one variable which will be named x equal to some value to it, 100. Let's consider. So again hit the enter, and inside this function again we will create one function. So use the def keyword and use the function name will be inner function, and inside this function we will try to print the value of x which we have assigned in the outer function. So just print x, just give the inner function, and now when we try to execute the outer function, as you can see, we are getting the value 100 out of it. When we execute the outer function, it will call the inner function. Inside we are printing the result of x which is created inside the outer function. So as you can see, the variable x is not available in the inner function, but it is still available for the function inside the outer function. So in the previous examples, we have seen what is a local scope with some simple example. So now let's go towards the global scope. So the variable which is created in the main body of the Python code is a global variable and belongs to the global scope. So the global variables are available from within any scope, global as well as the local. So when we create the variable inside the main body of Python, so you can use it inside the function or outside the function. Let me show you how. So in this example, we will create the variable y in the main body of Python and not inside any function. So the y value will store 200 integer value. So now we will try to define a function, def this function, and we will print our function inside it. So print y. So when we call this function, for this just type the function name. As you can see, we are getting the value of y, but we have not created the variable inside the function, else we have created in the main body of Python. But you can use it as a local scope also. If we have tried to print the value outside the function, print y, as you can see we are also getting the value. So the global scope means if you create the value in the global scope, you can use it as a global scope or a local scope, whatever you want. So the variable created outside of a function is a global and can be used by anyone. Our next topic is naming variables. If we create the operator having the same variable name, so if you create the same variable name inside and outside of the function, the Python will treat them as a two separate variables. So one will be available in the global scope, which is outside the function, and the other will be available in the local scope, which is inside a function. So in this example, we have created one variable named x outside the function having the 30 value, and we have defined the function in which we have again created the x variable but with the different value. So the x having the 30 value will be in the global scope and the x having 50 value will be in the local scope. So the Python will treat them as a two different variables. So when we print the value inside this function, you will get the value 50, and if we print the value outside the function, you will get the value as a 30. Let me show you with some example. So for this example, let me create the variable outside the function which is in the global scope. So the variable name will be a equal to 100. So as you can see, we have created the variable outside the function which is a global scope. So now let's define a function def, and the function name will be my function, and inside this function we will again create one variable with the same name a, but we will give the different value inside this. So the value will be 50 and we will print the value inside this function. So print the value a. So as you can see, we have defined the function and inside we have created one variable and printed it, but this variable will be in the local scope as it is defined inside this function. So when we call the function my function, as you can see we are getting the value 50 which is in the local scope, but when we print the value of a outside the function, we are getting the 100 value. So the same variable will be treated as a different one, as one have created in the outside of the function and one is created inside the function. So this is the difference between the global scope and local scope. So the main difference is if you created the variable in global scope, you can use it anywhere inside the function or outside the function. But if you create the variable in the local scope which is inside a function, you can use it only inside the function. If you try to execute the print command outside the function, it will throw an error as it is only available in the function. Our last topic is global keyword. So if you need to create global variable but you are inside the function, you can use the global keyword. So the global keyword makes the variable global even if you create it inside the function. Let me show you how. So for this example, let me define one function. So use the def keyword and the function name my function. So let's create one variable, but in this case if you want to create the variable which you might use outside the function, you have to use the global keyword. So it will be created in the global scope. So for that you have to use the keyword global and give the variable name. So the variable name will be x, and now assign the value to the x. So the x in this case will be 300. After that we will print the value of x. So this is our function definition. So when we call the function my function and hit enter, as you can see we are getting the value as we have created the variable inside the function. But if we want to use the variable outside the function, means in the global scope, we can use that as we have used the global keyword. Let me validate this. We will print the value x. As you can see, the value is getting printed as the variable x is a global scope, as we have used the global keyword here. So in this lecture, we have seen what is a variable scope, what is a local scope, and how to use it, what is a global scope, and the difference between local scope and global scope, and how we can use the global keyword to create a global variable inside a function with some simple examples. So if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to ring the notification bell to get notified for further updates.